all about socialization, and we're obviously interested in socialization into sport or into physical activity ideas. All right. Let's see. So, good. All right. I'm going to go quickly through the significant other socializing agent element. I'm not most keen on the research in this area. A lot of it is old, back in the 70s. There's not a lot of up-to-date information of it. It's just not something people have looked at for a while, although I do suspect, given the problems with overweight and obesity, that we'll start to see people looking at this idea again. Why do children, adolescents, adults not engage? What was occurring, or what can we change within their socialization into sport to get them more engaged? So my suspicion is we'll get more information here coming up in the future. So during early childhood, we've already mentioned on some other occasions that parents and the early childcare workers, because they spend so much time with many children when they're young, play an important role in children's socialization. And when we look at sport and activity, then those parents are influencing maybe the choices that are made. Sorry?
Who
is it?
I want to buy a room like college shirt.
Oh, is that Dean? Is it Dr. Culpepper?
I don't know who that was. He left
So, if I want to, so either they're going to influence the choices, so they're going to put me into, like some of the children at the CDC play soccer, right, at the weekends. Well, obviously that's not, like, they didn't get to do that. The parent does that for them, and then they can enjoy that experience. Or, as you get into 6, 7, 8, maybe the child wants to try something, but unless the parent supports that and facilitates it, then they're not going to get that opportunity. Okay? So, some of the, as I say, a lot of the research here looks at genders of the children, genders of the parents. There's some literature that suggests that boys are more influenced by their father, and girls are more influenced by their mother. Yeah, I don't know that that's, as I say, the literature's quite old. I'm not bought into a lot of the literature when we're looking at this information. We do see that, we do see that, aha, yay!
Yeah, no problem.
Oh well, much better. All right, we do see that fathers tend to reinforce gender typing more than mothers do. So on the whole, average, not always, there's always going to be a picture, someone that doesn't fit the typical. But on the whole, fathers tend to be stricter about the boys doing the masculine stuff and the girls doing the feminine stuff. The mums might be a little more flexible. and allow the children to do something they want to do.
Does this go into race as well as gender?
Yeah, there are, race and ethnicity all play a role in this socialization, and that would come under social agents. Same-sex parents might be more influential. I have to say, in my case, that wasn't true. So maybe that's why I'm a little bit iffy on this literature. The best predictor, the parents are really important though, because the best predictor of adult involvement in sport is being involved in sport, participation as a child or an adolescent. So most of you, when did you start? Did anybody not start their sport until they were in their mid-late teens? Right? No. So when you look at people in their 40s or 50s, if they're participating in sport, they probably were participating in some form of sport when they were younger than you guys are now. And you guys are much more likely to continue to participate in games than your peers who were not athletes or engaged at some point when they were younger in some form of activity, right? So parents' bias then towards sport or towards a particular activity plays a big role. If they want you to learn the piano, then they're going to put you in piano lessons. If they want you to learn soccer, they'll put you into soccer league, right? So what you get to experience is influenced by what they choose on your behalf. And we, again, I'll go back to my nice catalog because it's perfect. Right? If you look at, in fact the lights came back on so you can actually see the pictures. All right, if you look at, and we'll come back to this idea of what do we buy children, what do we give to them to play with, but if you look at this idea, all right, so the influence, she didn't buy this toy, right? The parents have influenced her choices of play, of engagement. And if you look at the picture of the boy gets the basketball. So the girl gets something that's sedentary, that's feminine. The guy gets encouraged to take part in more masculine activities. Okay. So as I say, it's not deliberate. No one is suggesting that this is a deliberate attempt to do anything. It's just that's how we behave, right? When you look at society, these are ingrained behaviors that we just perpetuate without realizing. So we just have to be aware of them, pay a little bit more attention, try to change the game a little bit. Siblings. So if you're the older, obviously not, but after that, siblings represent an infant's first play group typically, so they're being influenced by what their older brothers and sisters are doing. And when we look at girls' sports participation, that tends to be influenced by both their brothers or their older sisters. We don't have I haven't seen literature on boys, but the boys tend to be encouraged by their dad, or they'll look at a role model and they'll want to do it to follow a role model more than the girls, because the girls don't have as many role models. So as I say, this literature is going to have to change because things are changing. Girls now get more role models than they ever have for sport. And girls participating in what have historically been male sports like soccer, right? When the American women's team wins big.
You read the article about it?
No. But when they win big, that's everywhere, right? Because it's unusual, because soccer's unusual. For a start here, it's getting more popular. And so when your athletes do well, that's very big news. Well, that provides role models for girls to keep attending, to keep participating in a sport that maybe they haven't been encouraged to do initially.
Like, there's a big issue with the girls' soccer is that they're still not like seen or valued as males. And like the girls' soccer team is like 3 World Cups, and they just get those days. I read some article in that. So how does that, isn't that like just a big discouragement in your social development for sport?
I think it's problematical because it devalues the women's sport to the society as a whole, but those women on telly are still providing an active role model to a young girl, right? She's not aware of the fact. So if I'm 6 and I'm watching soccer, she doesn't know that they're not being paid or promoted as well as the guys. So I think the modeling idea still holds true, but discrepancy in pay is right across the, I mean, it doesn't matter. We have it here on Canada. I don't get paid as much as male counterparts. If you go into business, it's very hard for women to get paid the same as guys get paid at any job. I mean, it's changing. It should change, but it's slow, right? I mean, the suffragette movement started in 1887 or something. 1886. So, you know, and we're not there yet. We're still not equal. So it's taken a while to get there, okay? As we get out of childhood and we go through puberty and we start adolescence, then siblings, parents start to become less influential. So the take-home message, I think, when you're looking at the family member information is that societal agents act as a constraint to motor behavior, but they interact with those individual constraints as well. And so that means that I'm going to see different behaviors from different people. The behavior that emerges isn't just about the societal influence. So you may all be sitting here going, my mum had absolutely nothing to do with what I do or why I'm in sport. Or you may all be sitting here going, my dad had nothing, right? It was all about my grandparents. It wasn't anything to do with my immediate parent. So there's always, I think, don't get too bogged down in that idea and just think about the bigger picture there. It's important to recognize that the influence from the family exists rather than try, I think, to pigeonhole what that influence might be every single time you meet someone, right? Be flexible about what the influence from the family is. So as we get older, once we move out, as I said, we move into adolescence, peer group starts to play a larger role, plays a role right through into your early 20s. Your peer group are really, really important. So family becomes less influential during this period in time. And particularly for girls' involvement in team sports seems to be peer group driven. But what do I choose to do when I'm a teenager? Do I go to the ice rink at 4 o'clock in the morning and train to be an ice skater? Or do I stay home and after school go to the mall with my gang of girlfriends? because I can't do both. You can't do both and win. Right?
Can't do both of them.
So what am I going to do? So that peer group pressure becomes a big influence, because for some people, being part of the group is very, very important. And so they will gravitate away from being involved, particularly if it's an individual sport. They'll gravitate away from that and maybe quit sport altogether because they want to hang out with their friends, and their friends want to go to the mall, or their friends want to play video games. So this can sometimes be a negative, because they're going to go from doing something that was physically active, that taught them movement skills, that kept them healthy, to a less vigorous activity, playing video games, or chess club, right? Chess club is great. It's great. Chess is a great game. It's highly cognitive, but it's very sedentary, right? So, very, very sedentary. So, on the other hand, maybe my friends all want to go play basketball. And so, I don't really want to play basketball, but I go and play because the whole group are going to play.
See, so you will follow it, because they're not the
Well, it's not always about following. Sometimes it's about developing friendships. Sometimes it's about having fun. Is it fun on my own, or is it fun with my friends? Right? Some of that is personality. Okay. So, for me, the key is this coaching, teaching idea, because that's what I want you guys to really take on board, because I don't know if you're going to be parents or not, but based on what you're all telling me you want to do when you leave, you're all going to be coaches and teachers, right? So the research, when we look at this, is a little murky, unfortunately. All right, so what role do teachers and coaches play in socialization into physical activity and sport? For males, they seem to have a very strong influence during adolescence. For females, seems to be a slightly stronger influence with childhood, so 6, 7, 8 elementary type years. And it is not clear when you look at the research. So we don't want to overlook the influence. The influence is really important. The research suggests that at the minimum, the teacher or the coach reinforces the pattern that the parents already started. Right? So if my parents put me into gymnastics, and I go to gymnastics and the coach makes me feel bad, then that reinforcement isn't occurring and I may drop out of gymnastics, right? So the positive on here is that you've got enough influence to be able to introduce new fun movement patterns, right? If I'm a PE teacher, I don't just have to do old-fashioned PE type games and lesson plans. I can introduce frisbee golf, or I can do some Zumba, or there's all kinds of activities that I could involve in my PE class and introduce all the kids in my class to something brand new. Yes,
Would you
John?
say that's the reason why most kids aren't like participating in physical activities, because like stuff is still pretty basic in old ways?
It may play an important role. Yeah, not having PE teachers who are up to date and being flexible and trying something new. So we can have a really big positive influence. I can increase their repertoire of movement skills. And remember that we talked about the fact that that repertoire provides a foundation for anything I want to learn. The bigger the repertoire when I'm younger, the more opportunity I'm going to have to move as I get older, right? So the more skills I'm introduced to when I'm in my younger childhood years, the better opportunity I've got as I get older, right? It's up to me. If I'm working with children, I can make games fun. I can make PE fun. You can make your little leagues at the weekend fun. Your recreation summer program can be fun so that kids enjoy moving, right? However, there's a big negative, right? You can also wreck it, and that's important to pay attention to. You can totally wreck someone's enjoyment of moving, right? So you can do what we call aversive socialization. So you can do the negative impact rather than the positive influence. So if the PE teacher embarrasses someone in front of the class, right? So the PE teacher is telling someone they didn't hit the target, which everyone can already see, instead of correcting the movement pattern. Or they set up the activity for PE or for Little League so that only people who are really, really good at it can be successful, and everybody else is going to fail. Right? Failing's not fun. So if I fail all the time, then I'm going to find a way not to do it. Okay? So we can have a really bad influence if we get it wrong. We can have a very positive influence if we really concentrate on engagement, having fun, working on your movement patterns rather than counting the outcome. So you've got a huge potential when you guys leave school and you go out, your influence can be massive. You've got huge potential to either positively engage people in movement or drive them away. Okay? Think about some of the behaviors you've come across to this point. Right? You guys are not typical. We've said it over and over again during the semester. You are internally motivated to move. You are competitive. So when you lose, that's not really demotivating. It actually gives you a kick up the butt, makes you want to work harder, right? That's not typical. That's not normal. So for you guys, if you have a PE teacher or a coach that is unpleasant, right, or negative, then maybe you're able to shrug that off because the goal, the skill, the game is more important than the person that's teaching the game, right? So if you have a coach who is being negative all the time and just telling you what you're doing wrong all the time, you may be strong enough to just keep going, it's okay. He's a good coach. I'm just gonna keep working, right? Most people are gonna go, oh, stuff this. I'm done with this, right? I don't have to stand here and listen to this twat going on and on and on and me about how bad I am. I'll go do something else.
You watch Roll now.
Right?
Roll.
So, okay, so think about that influence because that's really crucial. All right, and not only did the lights not work, but the clock stopped.
It's like 11:46.
All right, so on the model then, I'm much more, I really enjoy the social situations a little bit more than the socializing agents, but that's my own personal bias. I really find looking at the social situation very interesting. So the social situation is the play environment. Where are we when we're trying to engage in physical activity or sport? Are we on the playground? Are we in the gym? Are we out on the field? Right? Am I in my back garden? Am I down at the park? Where am I when I'm doing this? And what opportunities am I getting to play? Right? What's the equipment that's being provided? And so the environment, the play environment, the park, the kinds of equipment that are in the park. So if there's not a climbing rock or a cargo net, then I don't get to practice climbing. Right? So play environments and the games that we're introduced to can play a big role in the types of movement behaviors that we see people develop. So if I don't have adequate space, for example, then opportunities for big movement skills, right? And the big movement skills are the ones that keep us healthy. We've all got to write, we've all got to sew or thread a needle or do up buttons or a zipper. Fine motor skills are very, very important, but they don't keep me healthy. Gross motor skills keep me healthy. So without adequate space, then maybe I don't get to move enough to be healthy or to develop good fundamental motor skills. So what would be an example of not having adequate space? When would that happen? Where might that happen? Not in New Mexico very often, right? When might that happen?
China.
In China. Right.
Like we usually live in a small house, like your backyard. I'm not very big or even like inside. It's
Okay.
very small, so I don't do very much.
All right. So if I grow up in a little house that has a minimal garden and it's a long way to the park and Mum doesn't have time to walk me down to play in the park and I'm not old enough to walk there on my own. Right? So maybe I don't get to play outside very often and I'm not allowed to run indoors, right? How some of you have had an indoor session already at the CDC. We don't encourage running indoors. That's a bad plan, especially when there's a lot of you in the space. Right? Think about the indoor session, those of you that have done it. Right? What if I'm at a childcare centre that's the amount of space they have to move around in? It's not a lot of moving going on, right? So what if I grow up in the middle of a big city on the 50th floor of a tower block?
Running down the hall.
Okay, so I don't get to be very active if I live a long way away from a space. Okay. So with gender type play environments, so if I look at the environment, does it encourage boys or does it encourage girls or is it neutral? We're getting better at developing neutral play environments, but they have historically been very biased one way or the other. What about the toys that we give? Okay, like the picture in the catalog. What toys do we give? And if we don't allow the girls to play with the boys' stuff, then does that mean they don't develop the right kinds of skills to be physically active? Or we don't let the boys play with the girls' stuff, and so they miss out on an opportunity to learn a different skill because we don't like them twirling around to the dance music in the living room, because that's not what boys do. So it can get perpetuated because what happens is, and I would do this, right? I have some very warm, fuzzy memories of toys that I played with as a child. If I had children, I would try to find very similar toys and give it to them because I would want them to get that experience that I feel is comfortable and nice, right? But it might be a sedentary toy that I'm perpetuating. So what facilitates moving and sport, and what facilitates something sedentary. So have a look at this. Think about, is it an inside or an outside toy? Is it a quiet or a loud toy? Ah, where's my toys? There we go. All right, so,
That's not-
airplane. Airplane. Right? Inside or outside toy? Outside toy. Right? Loud or quiet?
Quiet.
Quiet?
Well, what's that, everything, paper airplane? I mean, there's no motor on it.
That one looks like a balsa wood thing. So if I'm running around flying the airplane.
It's quiet.
What?
You think that's quiet?
Well, it doesn't make noise.
Girl or boy toy?
Both, unisex. Both. Both.
Boy toy, right? So, it's good that you guys think it's a both toy, because that's a good thing, right? Iron, indoor or outdoor toy?
That's a girl toy.
Indoor or outdoor toy?
Did your parents let you play with irons?
It's the fake one, you get the fake
Right.
thing.
Loud or quiet?
Definitely quiet.
Girl or boy?
Girl.
Both.
Which is interesting, right? Because who wears the shirts and ties to work? So why would I give the iron to the girl? I don't wear clothes that need ironing. Only Brian wears clothes that need ironing, right? So he has to do the ironing because he wears clothes that need ironing. I'm not ironing them for him. So, right? So why would I give the girl the iron and not the boy when the boy needs to learn how to iron? Right? But if you go to Walmart and you look at an ironing board and an iron, I'll bet there is not a boy on the box. Right? Loud drums. Okay? So the things that are more boy oriented also tend to be more outside oriented. And the things that are more girl oriented tend to be quiet, inside, or sit in the sand table type toys. Right? So if we can change that, you're arguing with me that these can be unisex. They can be. They can. That's a really good plan. Right? So, as a parent, I can promote play with other kinds of toys, or I can negatively reinforce. So if I think a particular toy is inappropriate, then I can take it away, or I can ask them to be more quiet with that toy. So these ideas, to say, often, right, this is not anything deliberate. No one is deliberately buying their little girl an iron or a fluffy soft toy to make her sedentary and inactive, right? That's not what happens. It's just that we have these ideas that we don't even recognize about what is appropriate for boys and girls. So we want to pay more attention to what's going on, to what we're doing. What are we buying? What are we influencing? What are we encouraging or not encouraging, and why? Right? Why do I encourage boys when they rough and tumble, and yet I don't encourage girls when they rough and tumble? Right? If they are younger than puberty, there is no physiological reason for the girls and the boys not to play together, and for the girls not to do rough and tumble, right? They're about the same size, they're about the same strength, so there would be no reason to pull the girl out of that game, and yet we do. We just do, right? So can we not we think that girls are weaker than boys,
Right.
right? That's not always true.
Some girls out there that are strong.
And yeah, some girls are stronger than some guys. And girls don't have to be weak just because they have less muscle mass. They might not be as strong as a boy with a lot of muscle mass after puberty, but that doesn't mean they have to be weak, and it's okay to encourage them to do sedentary stuff. What about socioeconomic status? Right? We think that
Like a princess. I know what you're thinking,
Yeah.
but like if someone has a lot of money, they treat their daughter like a princess.
yeah, they do.
And they
Lots of
they
toys.
stay away from that. They worry more about
Car.
cars, clothes, how they dress.
So, who takes part in what kinds of sports? Right? If I'm wealthy,
They do like.
what kind of movement opportunities do I get?
Golf.
Right? I might get to ride a horse.
Coquette.
I might get to
Fox hunt. Yeah,
to sail a yacht. Right?
Croquet.
If I'm poor and I grow up in the ghetto, do I get to ride a horse?
No, you get to play basketball.
Get to play basketball. Right? So not only do we have gender typing stereotypes, we also have socioeconomic status stereotypes.
Or we want.
Right? Because someone growing up in the ghetto, we don't assume that person is going to
Right.
even play tennis, right? That's why the Williams sisters were such a big phenomenon, because here were low socioeconomic black children whose parents managed to get them onto a tennis court and teach them how to play tennis, and now look what they've changed. Now I don't have to be rich to play tennis anymore.
But that's the only exception.
It's a flipping important one though.
Like all the rest of the tennis players and stuff like that are not from that.
No, I don't. I think that's changing. It takes time for that influence to filter down.
Like if there
Right?
was like to say a sport that just revolves around that, it would be mostly American sports are the ones that are derived from low poverty. You don't see rich people playing like basketball and football. Like the stories of the people who make it far outweigh those who are like, yeah, you know, Tom
Right.
Brady, Peyton Manning, my brothers, so you want to just kind of
Field hockey.
lacrosse, all that stuff. They're not. Those are hockey.
They don't have
Who
those.
plays lacrosse?
White people.
Rich white people. Right? Rich white people play lacrosse. So, socioeconomic status also has stereotypes. So what I'm saying is, like, we can't change them overnight. But if we're not aware of them, if we're not paying attention to them, they're never going to change. Because we just unconsciously perpetuate them all the time. We have to actually think about it and change it. Right? What am I going to teach? Who am I going to teach it to? What opportunities am I going to give kids in my class or kids that come to my rec center? Or even if I'm going to try and be a personal trainer, what opportunities am I going to give my clients? Am I going to pigeonhole my clients based on who I think they are? Or am I going to be open-minded enough to introduce them to some new ideas and some new opportunities? Okay? Sometimes it's not comfortable. Because we go, ooh, I didn't, that's not, ooh, I do kind of think like that. Right? And that's not a good thing. So it doesn't make me a bad person, just it makes me a little, but then I have to be more aware of when I go out, paying attention to it. Question? Okay.
Hey,